Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is your host, Malik Washington. How you all doing this fine day or evening, wherever you all reside in the world today? I pray that everything is well with you all and that everything is going well. I pray that you all are getting through your trials and your tribulations. And if you're currently going through any particular trial or tribulation, I pray for all the strength, development, and everything else that comes with that, whatever it is that you need or the tools that you need to get through those cycles or seasons of burden that perhaps uh, our God has placed on any and everyone these particular days. I know every day is not the same for everybody, so some people good, some people bad. It just depends. It's been a little while since I did the previous episode. The previous episode was an hour long. Well, nearly an hour long. I wasn't expecting to take it that far. It was like a total of 50 minutes. You guys can go check it out if you wish. Just a heads up or disclaimer that because it is 50 minutes, I would recommend for anybody to watch it in spurts if need be. Maybe a good 10 to 20 minutes. I think on average, you guys don't really watch videos beyond probably like 10, 15 minutes at best. And nowadays, since we have things like YouTube Reels and TikTok Shorts and things of that nature, it has really played into our attention spans as far as what we all often like to see. But it's also based off data as well. And that's why these things are created for your pleasure and for your viewership. I am attempting to cut down some of my long-windedness to the best of my ability because I have so much I would love to say to you all. But I know that you all's attention spans is so little that you would not want to hear me rant or ramble on for 30 minutes, damn near to an hour. That being said, I'm working on trying to get it down to 10 to 15 minutes, maybe cutting some of the details, maybe not trying to include everything, but summarize it to the best of my ability. But if I feel like it is a topic of passion that I have and I really want to speak on it at length, I will give you the rant of 30 minutes if need be. It's entirely up to you if you wish to watch me or not. But these are topics of which I like to speak on. And so I'll go on and speak on it to the best of my ability. And I'm just winging all of this. This is no script, completely raw and uncut because I want you all to listen to what I have to say, break those barriers, have that conversation, think for yourselves at the end of the day, not for my sake, but for yours. Hopefully, I'm here to kind of break off that um, barrier that maybe others have, or looking at it from a different angle, or perhaps we've all thought the same angle, and maybe there's something to be said there. Or maybe there's an angle that we're not looking at, and we can have that conversation. And so that is the entire point of this channel. I want you guys to be able to hear me. I want to hear you all. I want to engage with you all from time to time if necessary. When I do come and I give these pre-records, maybe at some point we'll do live streams here and there. Once my audience grows a little bigger, maybe if I have the time to really do YouTube because I'm typically busy, working or traveling or living life. And so a lot of times that gets in the way of me attempting to do this. And don't get me wrong, I love doing this. This is, like I always said before, this is cathartic. It's also therapeutic for me when I want to speak my thoughts. Because a lot of times when I'm in the real world, I'm listening to people. People are very seldom listening to me. I'm always trying to understand people, and that's how I gain my wisdom on a day-to-day basis. It's how I've always been since I was in, as far as I can remember, since I was in grammar school. I was always listening to what others had to say. They've hardly ever listened to what I had to say. And this is my moment and my time to be able to do so. And for those of you that know me and those of you who don't, you can click on this video and be like, hey, what does this guy got to say? And so here we are. Hopefully, this video should not be too long because I only have a few words to say about it from a certain angle because it just came up, like I want to say within the past 24 hours or so, regarding a white woman who apparently called a young black child the N-word. right? And which is essentially the title of this video. So we're just going to go ahead and segue into it. But apparently, it's been reported, and it's also on YouTube as well as on NBC and some other channels that covered it. In Minnesota, there was a situation that occurred where this Somalian man named Sharmaik Omar, a 30-year-old man, essentially was engaging a woman, a white woman who apparently had a child who was playing at the park. Apparently, this other Somalian child was in the park with them. Sharmaik alleged this child to be 5 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Based off the video, he looks a little bigger than 5 years old, but that's neither here nor there. But the point is that these are both children. And apparently, this child, outside of the video, this child took something from the white woman's son. I forget her name. But I did read the article. It didn't actually mention her name, strangely enough. But her name is put out there because she actually got doxxed at some point, but we'll get to that. Basically, he took something, she took it back from him, and she basically said he shouldn't have stole her stuff and called him a little N-word. And so Charmaine, that's when he recorded because he couldn't believe what he heard. He engaged her and he basically asked her, he said, "Hey, did you call that little boy over there the N-word?" And she said, "Yeah, he is a little N-word. He took from my son, dumbass." She flips the guy off. She calls him the N-word because he obviously provokes her by saying, "Well, since you're so bold," she said, "so you're not so bold now, so why don't you go ahead and say it to my face?" And that's exactly what she did. She called him the N-word twice. He had it on record, and he said, "Well, then we're going to leave it to the court of public opinion on the internet and let the people decide how they think of you." As a result of this, now we get into this component. People apparently have, according that she alleges, people have made threats to her life. People have doxed her address, and she's afraid for as she's playing victim. She alleges that she fears for her life, and essentially she needed funding to be able to move away from the location that she's at because she is afraid for her family. And so, she has a GoFundMe account up, and she was attempting to raise, I believe, over $150,000. Strange, ironically enough, though, she actually made more than her original count. She actually made up to, if I'm not mistaken, over $400,000, and it might be up to 500,000 as we're speaking right now. But essentially, there's a lot of people that actually support her. Frankly, these obviously might be white people that support her. And from what I saw from some of the comments that were made under their donations, there were some people that were actually saying that they were calling like even that little boy they supported in what she said, and calling him a niglet, all these different variations of the N word and stuff like that, and basically telling her she has every right to be afraid and to stay safe, things of that nature. So clearly, there are people out here who are putting their money where their mouth is. And that's the one thing I want to say to you all too, especially if you want to really know people when they talk about fighting for certain causes, pay attention to what they donate to, because that will determine, for the most part, who they are, probably perhaps on the inside, right? And there's clearly people that support the fact that, well, she called a little black boy the N word. Now, you all know how well, for those that know me, you know how I feel about the N word. Don't really care for it. It does not affect me. I have been called it before. And as I've stated, I've been called the N word by a white person, but that was literally over the internet. It's not like they said it dead to my face, right? And I've mostly, in my face, I've been called the N word by people of my own ilk. So, that to me, the N word loses its luster, especially in these current times, because some people have taken it as a word of endearment. Others have looked at it at its face, what it actually is. It's pejorative. It's meant to be negative. It's to connotate the ignorance as well as the skin color of particularly people of color, more specifically black people. But people of color have also been known to use this word as a term of endearment towards one another. It's also been tolerated amongst other people of color, such as Mexicans, Latinos, you name it, right? This stuff has been allowed. I've even heard Indians even say the N word. But when Indians say the N word, they say it as a negative connotation to a group of us who act the way that the word is uh, described to the T about that individual, right? Um, and for me personally, I can pretty much care less about uh, how it's referenced to black people specifically because it seems like both sides have a propensity to use different derogatory terms towards one another in order to invoke a certain emotion. And I think for far too long, we have allowed, particularly black people have for far too long allowed this word to invoke a lot of emotion in them that it really shouldn't because it is a word. It is a negative word, but it is a word that doesn't stop you from breathing, living, and doing whatever you need to do to go out here and be great here in America or wherever else you reside and and particularly since you all use it ad nauseum towards one another, it coming from a non-black person shouldn't even mean anything because for the most part, you all have taken the word and made it so lackluster. It has no effect. It has no real meaning anymore. Everybody uses it so effortlessly, like it damn near means nothing. If it was that bad, you all would have stopped using it a long time ago. There are black people that don't use it, obviously, that find it to be quite disgusting, that find it to be negative, and it is not a part of their vocabulary. And shout out to those that don't use it because they know and understand what that word connotated for so long. So they try to keep that out of their verbiage, as I believe we all should. But it is now a word of habit, and within the black community, it's a colloquialism that should be rid of. But for a lot of us, because we grew up in these ghettos and these hoods, and we grew up around a lot of ignorant ass people, particularly within our relatives, cousins, uncles, aunties, you name it, who don't know how to control their tongue around certain audiences, they say those things as a form of endearment to one another. And in some instances, it's not always a term of endearment. It's used as a form of insult. In regards to this white woman and her using the N word against a child, very ignorant, very crude, or crass, moreover. Because why does a little boy, whether if he was black or white, why does it invoke you to then call him the N word because he took something from your child? Children do a lot of stupid shit, ignorant shit at that, because they're perhaps unaware or because perhaps there's bad parenting going on. The parents should have been there to control that child when that child was doing wrong. It was also alleged that the boy is also autistic. Now, we have to be logical in this sense because when a crime, or not a crime, when someone does something wrong and they happen to be autistic, about face, nobody knows that they're autistic unless it is plastered on them through a shirt, through um, a wristband, you name it, to indicate that this person is an autistic person. No one is thinking about firsthand whether if that someone is autistic unless they are directly affected by having someone in the family who is autistic so they can recognize the symptoms, or they've been trained in the matter to recognize what these different mental illnesses look like. And so when you're talking about dealing with someone who is autistic, their reality obviously is dichotomous from a person whose mind is in the right. They can differentiate from wrong. An autistic child, perhaps not in many instances, depending on where they're at in the spectrum. I have a cousin who is fully on the spectrum, and his world and how he perceives things is completely different. and recommendedly so, he should wear things or merchandise that gives indication that he is autistic, because if he does things that's potentially out of line to the wrong person, somebody's going to be quite unmerciful, and they're not going to give him the same type of mercy as they would anyone else, because they've consistently looked at everyone else as pieces of shit anyway. So imagine what they would do to someone who is mentally disabled. That being said, this woman, called, regardless of whether he was autistic or not, did not warrant for this child to be called the N-word. Though I can understand how she feels about that child in the same instance taking something from her white son, right? But that is still not grounds, and I don't care what anyone says about it, it's still not grounds to call him the N-word. It's just not. That being said, I will say this. It is becoming more frequent where white people are now starting to speak out more so against black people in different ways. Calling you the N-word, whether if you're an adult or a child, is one of those ways of which some of them are going about doing it now because they're tired of the current climate that exists. Now, I don't know if this woman is a racist or not. There have been white people that I know who will use the N-word not because they like to use it, not because they are racist in the sense of the word, but because that's the only way to get you to obviously to invoke an emotion in you for you to act erratic and prove their point that you are the people that they believe you to be, which is to be emotional, to be sensitive to words that really render no power over your life, to get you out of your square, which is the main thing, but moreover to prove that you're not a civilized type of people. There are some white people that will do that. And ultimately, because it's out of provocation, not because they themselves started it. Now, there are groups of white people, like a perfect example on the internet. They will say the N word and will not give a shit about how they say it or why they say it, but they do it because it's fun to them. Especially, I'm a gamer. And if anybody out there that's a gamer, if you played games like Call of Duty, Gears of War, or anything like that, and you have ever, you're a black person and you've encountered white people, you know how white people get down on these online games. They talk shit, cash shit to anybody. It is not just blacks. They'll talk about Indians, they talk about Asians, they'll talk about anybody. And these are young people that probably would never say anything. They look like the average Joe, and they'll never say anything to you about face. But when they get on these online games behind screens and on headphones, they talk cash shit. That's something everybody, let's be honest, everybody was doing back in the day anyway on these gaming sites. Calling each other the N-word, black people calling them crackers, so on and so forth. Everybody was using all the stereotypes, whatever was out there way back in the day, in order to get people riled up because somebody lost in the game. That happened. That was typical. The N word was simply used as a tool to just invoke emotion, not that they really cared for the N word in the first place. Most of those people probably never even hung around black people a day in their life. So they could give less of a shit about how they say it to you. They just want to say it because it sounds cute, because it sounds like they're getting one over on you. And we know that they love sarcasm. That's a huge thing. But that's neither here nor there. I use that to bolster the point that nowadays, because of the political climate and racial climate between blacks and whites, and because of all of the leftist jargon that has been pushed by blacks to white people about themselves and all the antagonistic language that has been used, white people are tired of it. And frankly, rightfully so. I can understand that. Why are we going to continue kissing you all's asses when y'all don't treat us with the same respect? Now, does that mean that they should be going around casually calling little kids N-words? No. And in the same respect, none of us should be going around calling little white kids crackers. Or a big one that a lot of people in the Afrocentric community use, incest babies. That should not be. And that's not right. And therefore, it it comes to me as, if you want respect, show respect. If you want respect, exude respect. Show it if you want it to be reflected back at you. If black people don't want to constantly have to deal with all this nonsense with white people, start being the example that they don't see in you. Not to prove to them that you can be civilized, not to prove to them that you can be articulate, not to prove to them that you can be educated, but to prove to yourself that all these things that they label you, that's not who you are. That might be for some of the people in your community who don't represent you, despite the fact that over the media they seem to represent all of us as a collective, which is entirely not the case. Because there's clearly black people that are not into all of the rap culture, that are into the struggle or anything like that, or they've been in the struggle but they never glorified it. There's clearly black people that don't do these things, but there's not enough of us speaking out on it to be able to show to the world, hey, this is not how we roll. We're not the so-called ends you're describing, but you're putting us all in this pit hole like we are a bunch of snakes, whether if we are poisonous or non-poisonous. Since you can't distinguish between the two, you're just calling us all the same thing, despite the fact that everyone is not the same within the race. That being said, that lady, for why she's getting threatened and everything else, and getting money on top of that, that's saying a lot about she and the people that donated, because it shows how ignorance is bliss. But it also shows how people are getting tired getting tired of dealing with the ignorance of black people. The parents should have been there to deal with the child and to let the child know you do not take things from people. That's not how that works, autistic or not. At the same token, the white woman should not have said the N word. And because of the guy who recorded her, now has put it on the internet for all to see, and for us to all give a judgment on this woman, she's now more known than ever. But the consequence that it rendered was that doxing came into the situation. Now her information has been unveiled, and people are allegedly threatening her. And then on top of that, she has financial backing from a bunch of people who are ignorant, who are potentially prejudiced against black people, and they're saying that they support her against this niglet. And that's the situation. And what I say to that is, she's wrong. Whoever the parents of that Somalian child is wrong. And all of that could have easily been avoided, averted. On both sides, accountability, it can definitely have occurred. But instead, now she's got a spotlight. The child is probably it's inconsequential to him. The child now has to go around assuming that, well, I don't know what I did, that was so bad, but now the world knows about me in this petty situation. I think both sides were wrong on this matter. And the bottom line is, to that white woman, maybe you should stop calling little kids the N word when they don't do things that are according to your standards. I can understand that child not taking things from you, but calling the child the N word was unwarranted. Why? What was that going to do? What was that going to change? And it doesn't prove anything. And in case you all haven't heard the video, I'm going to play it for you, and then we're just going to close out from there.
You call him a child? Did you call the child the word? It is my own business. You call him? Okay, why don't you have the boss to say it right now again? Okay. All right, that's what you say. Nobody digging to you. That little kid, you call him a little child? Are you about to hit him? You chase him here? He took my son's stuff. So that gives you the right to call the child 5-year-old the N-word. If that's what he's gonna act. That's what you're gonna call him. That's what he's gonna act like. You know that's a hate speech, and you can be that. Huh. Okay, we'll see about that. What the internet has to say about you. Okay.
And that's the end of that. Ladies and gentlemen, I will post the link to that video in the description if you guys want to go listen to it yourself. The N word has obviously been bleeped out, so you don't have to worry about actually hearing the lady say it if it hurts your ears to hear it. That was actually from NBC, so they made sure to censor it so you guys can actually view the video at your discretion. So we're going to leave it right there. And I hope you all learned this perspective. We can all get along. Learn how to respect one another. Learn how to parent your children correctly. So this way these situations don't occur. And let's stop, for whatever reason, let's practice some temperament to where when a child does something, you have to go to the extreme by resorting to calling them derogatory terms that don't even apply in this situation. Although I can understand the current climate that we're in, and I know that blacks and whites don't really get along that well, this right here, completely unwarranted, completely unnecessary. This shit is stupid. Get real. Grow the fuck up. Let's be adults and let's learn to get along. We ain't got to live with each other. We don't got to sleep together, but we can certainly learn to greet each other, go about our business, and live life as a result. I'll leave it right there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Malik Washington. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good day or good night wherever you reside, and I thank you for listening if you got this far. Like, comment, subscribe to this channel if you like what's being said here. I'll talk to you guys soon. Hopefully, I'll see you in the comment section. All right, people. Have a good night. Peace.